do that.
Hello.
So I got kicked out of my house. She's closing some doors here. Got kicked out of my house. So Andrea's been so nice to let me use her house today.
Absolutely. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well.
Good. Thank you so much for being so patient.
Oh, please. I'm very happy that we're able to do it and that here we are. It's nice to finally meet you in person.
Nice to finally meet you too.
I feel like we know each other already, but
right?
I think you get to know somebody quite a bit when you read one of their books.
Yeah, absolutely. This is Andrea.
Hi, sorry.
Hi, Andrea.
Yes, I know. And I really enjoyed yours. It's so funny. You're so funny.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's an interesting industry I'm in. I'll tell you.
Isn't it right? Oh yeah. It's been an absolute education the entire way from getting started. I know getting started with mine to now. Just there's so much more to it than anybody would ever imagine. And you try to explain it, and they just are like, really?
Well, I will tell you that the difference between the apparel industry and the publishing industry could not be more stark.
Yeah.
And it is a real challenge to adapt to it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. There's a whole marketing piece that you almost need to understand. You almost need to be a marketer, go to school and do marketing to understand how all of these different systems work, because there's so much to it.
And there's always something new coming up.
Yeah.
Like a new platform, a new system.
Yeah. That's why Andrea has been such a godsend.
Well, absolutely. Well, in my world, it is a very fast-paced industry.
Yeah.
And the publishing industry is like swimming in Jell-O.
Yeah.
And everything is so slow and takes so long.
Yeah.
But the marketing part, it is not a benefit to be a salesperson and go into marketing. One does not help you with the other. It is a challenge, honestly, because in my world, I get the order.
Also, marketing is done totally differently now, than traditional marketing. Everything is online. You need to know about traffic. You need to know about target audience. You need to know about all these things. You need to speak people's language.
Yeah.
Well, I think that Andrea is one of the biggest challenges for somebody like me who.
Well, really even me, like TikTok, I'm still trying to figure that one out because I'm not into it. I like watching stuff rather than doing stuff.
Well, prior to being involved in publishing, I'm going to be honest with you, I was not anybody that had any interest whatsoever in social media. I mean, just between us girls, I think that Twitter is the silliest thing on this planet. I can't believe that I actually retweet some of the things that I do for other authors.
Oh, I know.
And say to myself, what a dumb shit you are. What are you doing?
But no, I agree, because what's the point? The point is for your reader to see, and not, the authors to retweet each other.
Yeah, Twitter's been the hardest one for me as well, just because, it's like, why does anybody care what I'm doing?
Oh my God, yes. Yeah. It's so funny that you should say that, Jen, because when over and over and over again, you hear, the authors, have to get out there and tell about their personal lives. Readers want to know about it. I'm a big reader. I don't give a damn whether Jenny Bonovich eats pizza or she doesn't. Yeah. It does not bother me.
Yeah. And that's my thing too, is like, because I look at things the way that I like them, and then I'm like, okay, like what she was saying before was, she was saying, Jenny, you need to go out there and do some of these other mediums. And I was like, I would never, I love Nora Roberts. I love Diana Gabaldon. I don't sit there and watch them, and I don't care what they say on Twitter.
Thank you. Oh my God. You have just validated everything I have said. Because I say to my husband and son, I don't get it. Why the hell would anybody care one whit whether I live in the desert or I live on a houseboat anymore, or whether I really drive a pink Mustang convertible? Why would they care? I'm just little Holly Susie.
Apparently people have nothing to do.
But a lot, yeah, that's true. So I mean, the things that people choose to care about is always a mystery to me. But it is what it is. But the one thing that I do like and I do think is helpful is the website. Because my world is the heaven and earth world. It's a Greek. Okay, so I really love the website because it does have kind of like this whole visual display of what the series and the stuff's about, which is more, I guess, when you think about it, is more about the series. So it's not. Sure. Maybe that's the reason why.
Oh, yeah, but I don't think Holly, right? Can I call you Holly or should I call you Susie?
I don't care.
I don't think Holly knows about the Heaven and Earth series website.
Oh.
When I originally wrote my first story, I probably shouldn't have called the main character Holly and just kept Holly Schwartz, but it seemed a little weird, so I changed it. But I had to put a name that I could remember.
Yeah.
So Susan is my middle name, and Black is the English translation from the German for Schwartz. So I had a real good chance that maybe I could remember it, because if you called me Susie on the street, I'd look around. Who the hell are you talking to?
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. I actually, I'm really into genealogy and all of that, and so when you look at those kinds of things. My family came, the Rudy side of my family came from Germany, and it was Rudolphson, and it was, this whole thing. And then, but there's a huge Swedish component to my family too. And so, they're Swedish. Yeah. It's like Pearson and and I didn't realize about the last name thing was that they take the man's first name and they add son to it, and the whole thing. Yeah, so I find that really intriguing when you have the translations of stuff. And Andrea's from Romania, so it's always kind of fun to learn about languages and how that all works. And so
we have some, Andrea, we have some relatives that were from what they call White Russia, which is really Romania. But I love stories about families. I mean, my great grandparents on my mother's side came from Poland.
Oh,
and it's a really interesting story. My great grandmother was gorgeous. I've only seen pictures. When I met her, she was in a chenille bathrobe and had boobs down to her ankles. And I'm very old, but at the time, she looked like Sophia Loren.
Oh,
and she convinced her family not to give her a planned marriage. She wanted to marry the love of her life. Well, we're Jewish, and there were a lot of pogroms, and he never showed up for the wedding, and they think he was killed.
Ooh.
So now my great grandmother is like tainted, right? But the guy that she was supposed to be married to was my great grandfather, and he was a catch because he had a profession. He was a tailor. So they got married, and things got very bad in Warsaw for the Jews. So he got to England, and he got a job in Birmingham sewing the uniforms for the coal miners. Right?
Cool.
He saves his money. This is the part where people have told me I should write this as a book.
Yes, I'm already thinking that. Yeah.
My great grandmother gets money from him, and it's now time for her to join him. So it's midnight, a night where there's no moon. Guy knocks at the door, and she says goodbye to her family. She has a knapsack. She's got 3 changes of clothes. She's got 2 candlestick holders that were her parents' wedding gift to them, and 1 picture of her family. That's it. They say goodbye, ostensibly forever. They go to the Warsaw River. She gets on the guy's back, and he swims her across the river because it's a very swift current, and you could drown if you don't know what you're doing. 3 months, she is passed along through the Jewish underground, through the forest, traveled during the night, slept in the forest during the day, and gets to Marseille, takes a boat across the English Channel, and my great-grandfather is there to meet her. So
Wow.
they're in England. My grandmother and her next youngest sister were born there. And they decided to come to the United States because they both had siblings there, but not in New York and Boston. So they get to Ellis Island, and my grandmother has pink eye. Now, she should have been sent back, and I don't know why she wasn't. But they put her like in isolation with my family. And comes time where they're gonna, you know, the guy's gonna stamp the card, and their last name was H-A-R-P-F, Hartf. Guy doesn't pronounce it right. He says, "Okay, Mr. Hart." My great grandfather was too afraid to correct him. He says, "Yes, sir, Hart." So I said, I love stories. To me, to have somebody who is German and Swedish, and you really want to know, how do these people get together? I love this stuff.
I totally agree, because my stories are very similar to that.
They are
on my mom's side of the family, and it's and those stories. I mean, you know, we live our life and we do our thing here, but my God, did those people live? I mean, you know, those people came, the way that they came to America and the way they found each other in those really turbulent times. I mean, just, you know, Great War and World War II, and you know, all, and I mean, just all of it. It just is so, to me, that generation, that group of people, they're just absolute. I mean, everyone deserves their own story, because that's an incredible story right there.
Well, it's interesting. If you had ever met my mother's father, he was a little short guy, and he was like one of the first health nuts. He never drank coffee or had tea, didn't smoke. I mean, he played handball. He was an ice skater, and you would never know that this guy quietly helped supply the Warsaw Ghetto with guns.
Oh my gosh.
He was like the president of his synagogue.
Yeah.
And he was a big deal. Well, he was in the children's apparel business. And, you know, in those days, the Jewish mafia really was very involved in that. Yeah. So he got all the other presidents of the synagogues to collect money. And he went to the Jewish mafia, because he did business with them, and said, "Here, buy guns and get them there. They need this." And they did. They took the guns. They didn't ship them out of the New York harbor. They went to the New Jersey port, because they controlled that. And they got the guns to the Warsaw Ghetto. Can you imagine?
I can't even imagine. It gave me little chills when you said that. That's just so, I mean, you know, talk about somebody having an impressive life, and you know, the saying, and I'm going to butcher it, but the saying of "you help one life, you help the world entire." I mean, that's oh my gosh, just that, what a hero. Incredible.
And honestly, if you met him, he was soft-spoken. I don't ever remember him swearing. He did have one little thing, though. My sister and I are the only two left-handed people in the family.
Oh.
and he was one of those people that there was something wrong with you if you're not right-handed.
Oh, no.
So he used to pay us a nickel to draw circles with our right hand. I draw a really good circle with my right hand. Other than that, it holds my watch and balances me out with my briefcase and my purse, and that's it. But so you live in Seattle, yes?
I kind of live about an hour north of Seattle. I'm in a little tiny town called Stanwood, and I spend half my time there, and then we have a boat, and we spend up there. I love it. It's so peaceful and wonderful. And in the last year and a half with the pandemic and everything, it's been just a godsend. So
of course.
We've been really enjoying that. And yeah, so we love it up here, and we've had a really unseasonably warm summer.
Kidding. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wendy Kendall and I had quite a conversation about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she we did one of these Zoom things during your heat wave, and she's like fanning herself.
Yeah,
like, you know,
it was horrible.
It was horrible. Now I live in the desert, so you know.
And you're used to that. Your roads are used to that, and you know, I mean, air conditioners.
The roads buckled, didn't they? The I-5 had
It did. It was failing because we just don't have weather like that. And very few people here have air conditioning. And so it's just because it never gets that hot. So it was actually very dangerous for a lot of our elderly and a lot of, people just in general, because
you didn't have air conditioning the first 2 days. We finally got one.
Yeah.
It's right there in the middle of the house. But that first day when it got really hot, I had 102 degrees fever from the heat.
Oh, just
yeah, my temperature went up, and then I was getting headaches and.
They say that if you drink hot liquids, it cools you off. I'm here to tell you, I don't believe it, because it doesn't work.
It was so horrible. It was so horrible that day.
I keep trying it, but no. Yeah. Well, right now we're having sweater weather. It's double digits. It's not triple digits.
I was just going to say, you've been like up in the 115s, and it's been hot.
It's been very unusual here. We started out as just weekenders. Yeah. And we've been here full time quite a while now.
Yeah.
I have never gotten used to the summers. This is 7 months of heaven and 5 months of, oh my God, whose stupid idea was it? And it was mine, so I can't really crab too much. But Halloween is the celestial light switch where the next day it is normally gorgeous. Now, last year it was hot here until Thanksgiving, but normally when it changes, it's glorious.
I love it.
And you tend to forget about August.
Yeah. Well, it's typically cooler here. We have a lot of rain and stuff. We have our really rainy seasons, in the spring and in the fall. And my husband and I, my mother-in-law passed away, so she had a place in Panama City Beach that the kids are all now going to take over. And we were just talking about how we might actually snowbird a month or so up in maybe the month of November or October to November or something.
Have you been there before?
Oh yes, love it.
Okay.
Have you been there?
It's like it's not warm there, right? That, right?
Panama City Beach, Florida is in the summer. It's very hot.
No. I mean in November.
Oh no, yeah, that's typically when we go it's usually over our anniversary, and we go for a couple of weeks, and there's a lot of thunder and lightning, and it's a lot like home, but it's warmer than here.
It's much warmer than where you are. Sure.
So
I only know this because my parents lived in Florida. They lived in South Florida for many years. But when I started my career, I worked for my dad.
Oh.
And it was by accident. I had no interest in the apparel industry whatsoever, but I had graduated from college and I was visiting my parents, thinking I would be going to graduate school. And the phone rings, my mom's in the shower, get the phone, okay. So it's my dad, and he's at the Atlanta trade show, and his mother was ill in Cleveland, and he had to go. And none of his bosses could come to cover for him. And he says, Holly, I need you to come to the show. And I'm telling you, I looked around to see who the heck he was talking about, because it couldn't be me. I had never been in a showroom, never tried on a sample, didn't give a flying fazootie about what he did. Okay, it's your dad. You can't say no. All right, who's going to help me? Your mother. I said, oh, splendid. The blind leading the deaf. Fantastic. So, Tweedledee and Tweedledum get on the plane. We go to Atlanta. He gives me 30 minutes of how to be a salesman and says, be back in 3 days. And I'm like, yeah, okay. But the Southern people were very nice. And, although somebody did ask me what my terms were, and they were referring to trade terms, and I said, I'm sorry, I'm not that kind of girl, but, we'll put that aside. And when my dad came back, I had written a lot of orders. So he offered me a job to be a sub rep. And I traveled Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, and the Carolinas.
Oh.
And this is a long time ago. I'm a little broad. I mean, this was like in the mid-70s. And to be a nice Jewish girl from Los Angeles and travel to Boaz, Alabama, I can tell you, these were definitely like being in another country. Somebody said, y'all won't get down those greens. I thought they wanted to mow the lawn. In reality, they wanted to know if I wanted to have a meal.
Yeah.
So if you've been to Panama City, then you know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah.
And I did this for 4 years. I was the only woman, when I started, there were no other women who did what I did alone.
Yeah.
And I would walk into the stores and they would say, "You're the what, hon? What kind of daddy you have let you do a job like that?" And they were very polite. They were very worried because I'm a little 4'9" person. And I had these garment bags. You know, in those days, we didn't have sample crates with wheels on them like they do now. And I had these big garment bags that were, if you filled them, they were bigger than me.
Oh.
So they would like call up their husbands. "Wilbur, get over here. Mike Berman's daughter is here and you need to help her get the samples in." And I was, you know, if Wilbur wasn't here, I'd have to do it myself. But it was the greatest laboratory for writing because every day I kept a journal.
Oh, good for you. Yeah.
And my journal, which I still keep, is the foundation of everything that I write because they say, write what you know.
Oh,
I do.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. Yeah.
So you went to nursing school, I read.
I did. Yeah.
And then you had to stop to help your family.
Yep.
So before you were a writer, what did you do?
I'm a Sagittarius. So I do a lot. I've done a lot of things in my life. I was a joke.
No. But see, that's good for being a writer, don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've been a makeup artist. I've been a banker. I've been I've been a photographer. I've done writing. I tried nursing. Nursing was the one thing that was hard because I really actually thought that was my calling. And so I really enjoyed the school. I loved working with the patients. That was my favorite thing in the world, was to work with the patients. And then when my father-in-law got sick, it was kind of like, for me, in my faith, I thought that's exactly what I was supposed to do with my knowledge. So, I mean, it has come back to help me so many times now, but I did that and stayed home, helped with that. I wanted immediately to go to work for hospice because that's who had helped us.
That takes a special person.
Well, it's extremely rewarding. A lot of people will say that, but it is such, you get so much back. It's so selfish. You know, and it really is. The stuff you get back is it's really, really precious. It's like when you're pregnant and you have your children and there's that really magical thing. It's the same thing when somebody's passing. It's the same kind of idea. You're very honored to be there because it's a very miraculous thing that happens. So I wanted to get into hospice, but you have to wait a year when you've been involved with hospice. So I waited, and then I got involved with that, and I do a lot with charities and stuff, causes that I think are important. And so I mean, that's a small snippet of all the things that I've done. But yes, I totally agree. You write what you know. I love to travel, so I like going to the places that I write about.
Well, so for me, it's very cathartic. I've managed to kill off some people on paper that I really would have loved to have killed in real life. Oh yeah,
I love that.
Right?
Very good. My son is a psychologist, and I tell him all the time, you should incorporate this into your therapy sessions. Have them write it out. They don't like their mother, kill her off.
Yeah.
But the book that you read of mine, Bunny Frank, is based on a real person.
Oh.
I have taken some poetic license, obviously. He's not really somebody that deserved to get killed.
I loved that. I thought that was so funny. The swimsuit and everything. That's hysterical.
I love that scene, how you wrote it. That was fun. You stuffed it about.
Yeah.
Well, it's very interesting. if you're a salesperson, you're observant. Your head is always on a swivel, and people are the best stories. I mean, if you just sit in the mall in the food court,
Oh my God,
with some fantastic stories. I mean,
I used to go in my clubbing days in the clubs, and I used to dance on tables too, but a lot of times,
you were a wild child.
a lot of times I just used to sit around, at a table and just watch people, not necessarily just dance, having a good time, but just watch people. It was the most hilarious thing to do all night. It's just so many things.
But to me, if you are a salesperson or you are an author, you are an observer of life. And as an author, you digest what you see. But the beautiful part is you can put it back out however you want it to.
Yeah, I love that. I really love that. Yeah. Well, we actually have been talking for a little while, but I should probably do my little intro so that we could, because we're going to probably use a lot of this.
This wasn't it.
I love this.
This wasn't it.
No, we've just been chatting.
Oh, for crying out loud! I am so sorry.
No,
This is great.
I love this. This has been one of my favorite. I think this is my favorite interview that I've ever done.
I thought my time was up.
I haven't done my little intro, but I actually really love what we're doing here, because I that's my favorite thing, is to talk with people and get to know people. And the one thing about this podcast, that the biggest feedback that I've gotten is, it's so wonderful to get to know authors as humans. You only see them on the page, you only see their name, you see a picture maybe.
Yeah, but the things that inspired them, how they write, how they started
writing. In my opinion, there is no group of people that are more generous with their time and their information and their knowledge than authors.
With competitors. I mean, essentially we're all competing. So, I mean, it's, but a good story is a good story. And I think people that are.
Exactly. I mean, it was my greatest pleasure to write your review.
Oh,
my greatest pleasure. And I've got to be honest with you, I didn't know what the hell to expect, because I don't read those kind of books. I don't have much fantasy in my life, honey. But Dee was charming and gutsy and quirky and so human that she ached your heart and made you want to hug her at the same time. I loved your book.
Oh, thank you so much.
Now, I don't know, I haven't read the first one, so I don't know in the first one if she croaked, but if she didn't,
nope.
Not to tell you your business, but you could make Dee a whole other category, in my opinion.
Yeah. She's actually inspired by a lot of people, not the least of which was my mother-in-law. She was very quirky like that too, and just a lot of fun. But thank you very much. Yeah, the other books, Dee's is a little bit of a one-off because it has very little paranormal in it. And her story was just kind of a unique one. You know how characters can kind of, I'm sure you had that with Holly, and they just kind of scream in your head what they want said. So she's never made her, she's very loud in what she wants written about.
So are we, but
okay, I'm gonna do my little show.
We're not a quiet giant in your group, us.
No. I'm going to do my little spiel before I forget. Okay. So hold on one second. First, I want to make sure. Okay, so this is so we're just saying the Holly Swimsuit Mystery Series, and it's Death by Sample Size, Book 1. And you're categorized as a cozy mystery humorist, right?
Yes, and we're going to talk to me as if I'm Susie Black now.
Susie Black. Okay. And
write that down.
Yeah. Okay. I have that. I do have that. Okay. All right. So
make sure she doesn't screw this up.
Well, the nice thing is I can come around.
Yeah.
Excellent.
We've been known to start over too,
Really? See, I love that. Can I tell you, I do that in some of my presentations. Oh, I'm sorry, this is the wrong damn sample.
Yeah.
And they got me recording because
Yeah.
a couple of times we forgot.
Oh yeah, we've forgotten to hit the record button on occasion too. So, but not on this one. We got it down.
My kind of girl.
The worst one was the UK guy. We had a UK guy, and he got up really early to do the interview and everything. And we did the. What's that?
Was that Nick Arnold?
No, I'm blanking on his name. I see his face.
Oh, don't worry about it.
Yeah. Okay, here I go.
Okay, I'm being quiet now.
Hello, everyone. It's Jenny Heckman here, and today with Andrea, we got Jenny's Tattletales, and today we've got Susie Black, who is a cozy mystery, and it's filled with so much humor. This is a really great book, guys. You need to go out here and get this. The series name is the Holly Swimsuit Mystery Series. And the spotlighted book we're working on today is Death by Sample Size. And it was hysterical and I loved it. It was hysterical, but it was also really riveting. You're going to really like this book. And so today we're welcoming Susie Black. Hello.
Well, hello.
How are you?
To see you both. How are you? Everybody good?
We've been chit-chatting for about 20 minutes now out there, guys. So, we've kind of gotten to know each other, but we're going to play some of the wonderful things that Susie's already talked about. But I wanted to first say, why don't you give everybody a little summary of what your book is about?
My book is about a woman who breaks every rule because she doesn't think that any of them apply to her. Bunny Frank was a big shot in the apparel business. She owned a buying office, and she was a terrible person. She cheated, she lied, and she made a lot of enemies. She did a lot of good things, but she made a lot of enemies. And the story is that the protagonist, Holly Schlitnick, who is a swimwear sales exec, is getting into the elevator of the California Apparel building, and there's Bunny. She's crushed up like a Thanksgiving turkey. She's got a swimsuit stuffed down her throat and a hang tag hanging out of her mouth. And Holly is a unique individual. Holly bursts out laughing, and Holly is a little afraid of death, and that is her nervous way of responding to somebody dying. But when Holly's friend and colleague is accused of the murder, Holly decides that she better get involved or her friend is going to go to jail forever. And the story is really how somebody who is not a professional police person or a detective puts on her hat and applies her salesmanship techniques to figure out who the real killer is. And she makes a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, I loved her stumbling around. I thought that was really great.
She stumbled and bumbled quite a bit. But at the end of the day, despite her every effort, she figured it out and used a very, very unique way to capture the killer.
Which we're not going to tell you right now.
Oh, no, I caught myself.
Yeah, but this is a really great book. It's really got a little bit of something for everybody in it, and I really, really, really loved it. Now, you kind of come by this a little bit, honestly, this story, because you are in the apparel industry. So, so tell me about how you made that transition from actually working in apparel to writing this story.
Well, I have been actually, like the protagonist, I am a ladies swimwear sales executive in the greater Los Angeles area. And the way I made the transition is I have always kept a journal, and the journal really chronicles all the weird people that I come in contact with, some challenging ones, some quirky ones, some very nice ones. And honestly, some of the wacko situations I found myself in that I managed to get myself out of. And the journal is the foundation of everything I write. All of my characters are based on real people.
Yeah.
I, of course, take some poetic license, but the plots are based on people and situations that happened that I've said, gee, what if I did this?
Yeah, it is interesting. The whole retail, I think any kind of service kind of industry, retail, you know, people up in the air that are the flight attendants and things like that. There's so many crazy things that happen. I did work retail for a very short time when I was younger, and I mean, I think just based off of the short time I did it, I could probably write.
You could write 100 books.
I love it. I love it. Okay, what is the first book? I mean, because this is filled with a lot of humor. What was the first book that ever made you laugh?
The first book that ever made me laugh was One for the Money by Janet Ivanovich.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. It's been a long time since I've read her.
Me too. She changed the characters a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Grandma must be 200 years old, and the father never leaves his armchair, and Stephanie needs to make a decision on which one of those two men. So
yeah, right.
But no, really, and I say that, look, Janet doesn't need any advice from me. She's doing just fine by herself. But in my opinion, as a reader,
yeah,
I have looked at the idea that you're the second person I know now that maybe doesn't read her anymore, because we could write the books. By page 50, the house is going to blow up, and by page 65, the car is going to get wrecked. And if you know what's going to happen, it's not so good. In my writing, I asked the people who have been beta readers, could you figure out who did it?
Mm-hmm.
Knock wood. So far, I have not had anybody who figured it out.
Yeah.
Because if they did, I'd rewrite the end.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really important, right? I mean, it is. I love people that can tell a story very concisely. You know, one of the reasons I stopped reading Planet of the Cave Bear was the same thing. Just so you spend half the book like saying what happened in the first book. That really, it's all, you know, and there's so much scenery, and there's so much, you know, and you can tell that this woman has done so much research and things. But the same thing, you kind of feel like by the end, you kind of know what's going to be happening. And so, yeah, keeping people on their toes. And I do think that humor brings a lot to that as well. When you just are in the middle of something really serious, and now you just kind of change it up with a little bit of humor, that keeps people entertained as well. You know, chuckling through tears.
I think that the thing that was most important to me, and I write in the first person, which is not the easiest. No. Because if you write in the third person, you see everything.
Yeah.
If you write in the first person, either you have to be in the room where the action is taking place, or somebody has to tell you about it. I had to invent a group of women called the Yentas, who, if I didn't know what was going on, they told me about it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great way to do it. I really, really enjoyed how you put all those things together. It was really great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
The most important thing for me is that it was my voice that came through.
Yeah.
What you see is what you get on paper as well as here. I'm a wise guy. I'm a smart ass. Whoops, sorry.
That's all right.
I'm pretty sarcastic quite a bit. And I wanted that to come through.
Yeah, it did.
As a woman who has successfully navigated a traditional men's industry like I have, I wanted the characters to be strong women, even the bad ones. I mean, Bunny Frank was an SOB, but she was a strong woman.
You didn't mess with her.
Oh no. Nobody says no to Bunny Frank unless you didn't have a brain. She'd wipe you out. But I wanted it to come across that these were strong women, these were successful women, these were, I don't want to say they were fearless, because they weren't.
Yeah.
I wanted them to be real.
Yeah.
And I hope that came across.
Oh, well, you did. You achieved that very brilliantly. Yeah. It very, very well fleshed out characters. Really great. What is a behind the scenes tidbit in your life that would probably surprise readers the most?
Fashion shows. If you've ever been behind the curtain and saw what goes on, it is the best case scenario organized chaos.
Yeah.
When they're coming out and they're just churning and swirling and looking like everything is so calm, cool, and collected. Behind the curtain, they have about 40 seconds to change their clothes.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're the poor fool that's back there helping them, you got to make sure that the bras are on right side up, not inside out. You'd be astonished the things that could happen and have happened. And if you're not paying attention, the model goes out and the audience is tittering because she's got the bra on upside down or inside out.
So had it happened when that happened and then people thought that's a trend?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yes. And, you know, you could be a designer because there was a trend where they put the trim on the outside, that the reality is it was ruching that was on the inside. It wasn't ruching to begin with, it was a seam, but they made it a style because some idiot in the back. But I would have to say that if somebody who is not in the apparel industry wanted to see the really frightening side, go in the back curtain of a fashion show.
Yeah. So you asked me before some of the things that I had done previously, and I actually was an extra in movies, and I did do runway for those different things. And it's hysterical. It's so hysterical.
Okay, now I want to know what movie.
Well, it was they changed the name of it, but it was Mercedes Rule was in it, and I'll tell you about it later. Hit and Run. It was Hit and Run. And then there was another one, Highway to something. And it was Jared Leto in his very early days, and Jake Gyllenhaal. And I met them when they were just starting out. But the runway shows, every single one was a different thing. I know one girl that went out with 2 different shoes on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's hysterical.
Or in my case, they're wearing the swimsuit top from one print and the bottom from another. So we said, oh, it's mix and match.
Yeah. And I know another girl who fell off the stage, and that was horrible.
Oh, yeah. But I would have to say, in answer to your question, if somebody really wanted to see a remarkable way of, oh my God, how did they ever succeed? That would be it.
Yeah, perfect. What is your most unusual writing quirk? Do you have an unusual writing quirk?
I would have to say the only writing quirk I have is whenever I'm stuck in the middle, I have a conversation with the characters. Literally, all right, guys, you're up.
Yeah.
And I have learned not to get upset anymore. I let the characters drive the bus from the middle of the story to the end that I want it to end. There are rules.
Yeah.
And they have to follow the rules or I kill them off. And they know that. Nothing is lasting as a relationship based on fear.
Yeah.
But I let the characters take hold of the story, and honestly, especially in this first book, there are things that happened that I wouldn't have thought of.
Yeah. I know, that's the great thing, right? One of the best pieces of advice I ever got was write yourself into a corner and then see how you get out of it. Yes. I loved that advice, and I've used it many, many times. And usually the stuff that comes out are these things, directions.
Well, I have to remember that.
Yeah, it was a great piece. It was, I want to say, it was maybe that was Dorinda Jones at one of the conferences. It might have been Dorinda Jones. But I thought it was just brilliant. Paint yourself into a corner and then write yourself out. Yeah, really fascinating. What is your favorite word and why?
I can't tell you. Okay, Jenny, here it is.
Okay, give it to me.
When my son was a toddler, this will be a big hint. He called up my mother and said, "Grandma, Mommy said the F word."
Did you get in trouble?
Yeah. It's a wonderful word. It can be a noun, a pronoun, a verb, an adverb. I mean, my grandmother was a very interesting person, and she had a theory that if you knew a few swear words in any language, you could go to that country and get along. And much to my mother's chagrin, she taught me lots of words and lots of languages. If I ever go to Greece, I'm in good shape, you know.
That's funny because I was senior in college and there was like a world youth meeting in Budapest, and there were youth from all over the world there. This is how we bonded. We learned each other's swear words. Languages for real.
It's very true. It's very true.
My other favorite word, to be honest, is hope.
Hope. Oh, yes. I like that. Hope.
Because if we don't have hope, we are lost.
Yeah.
If we can't laugh about the most horrible things, we are lost.
Yeah.
And if I accomplish anything in my writing, I want people who read my book to be able to laugh, even though, you know, there's nothing funny about somebody dying or dead or getting murdered.
Yeah.
But the road to life is paved with hills and valleys and unexpected turns. And everybody in my book experienced that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I love that. Very, very, very good answer and very good message. Yeah. So what is next for you? What's happening? What are you working on now?
Well, I'm in the middle of probably my second or third really hard editing of book number 2.
Okay.
Called Death by Pins and Needles. And I have the third book, Death by Surfboard. It's written, but I want to rewrite it. And what I'm going to do is I had several readers and a couple of authors suggest that I add some things to my cast. And I'm going to add 3 things. I'm going to add a dog. Somebody said add a dog. All right. I'm allergic to cats, so it could never be a cat. So I'm going to add a dog, and it's going to be based on the dogs that we had. And I'm going to add a love interest.
Ooh.
In fact, there are 2 that are coming. One from Holly's previous life. And the third one is, I thought the book was filled with too many white people. So we're going to have a more balance, and I'm going to add a very spicy woman of color.
Nice.
And
I love it.
She's going to be from India.
Oh, I love it.
My company that I work for, well, Holly's company, oh, good Lord, this happens to me all the time. I mean, I've got to tell you, it's a terrible thing. Holly's company that she works for, isn't that awful? Isn't that awful? That happens to me all the time, because in my mind, I'm her and she's me. But in any event, the company that Holly works for is going to buy this woman's company. It's a beach accessories cover-up company. But she is part of the package.
Oh,
And
I love it.
She is going to join Holly's company, and she's a real piece of work.
Oh, I love it.
She's fun.
Yeah.
I have not figured out how I'm going to actually insert her in there, but and the 2 love interests are going to be very interesting. One is I've had everybody and their grandmother want more of Detective Miguel Martinez in book 1. And Holly and Miguel, you read the book.
Yep.
They have a very roller coaster relationship.
They do, yeah.
And he's going to enter her life in a different way.
Oh.
And the other love interest is going to be a man from her past. The very first book that I wrote is a book called Rag Lady. And it is the fictionalized version of how I got into the apparel industry.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And there was a man, Buddy Langlois, in the book, who was based on somebody who wasn't in my life when I lived in the Deep South as a robot.
Oh.
And Buddy is going to appear. And they had a very unfinished relationship.
Okay.
And it's going to be interesting to see how Buddy and Miguel Martinez and Holly all get along.
How they coexist.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh, that's going to be, just knowing, Miguel, that's going to be fun. That's going to be a fun triangle. Yeah, great. Okay, I can hardly wait to read this. It's going to be great. Okay, I feel so horrible because I just love this interview and I've been loving talking to you, but we're probably getting close to the end here. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on. It has been such a pleasure. And you were just saying that thing about hope, but especially I've had some dark days this last month, and I have to say that you have been a very breath of fresh air for me, and you have uplifted me in a wonderful way. It's elevated me totally. So I so appreciate you coming on. And
you gave me chills.
I really enjoyed our conversation here. This has been great. We've been kind of emailing back and forth.
I couldn't wait for this one, to be real honest with you, because I think that on some level we know each other very well, and we didn't really know each other at all. And it's an interesting dichotomy when two people who would have no reason to ever intersect manage to bump into each other.
Yeah.
And seem to connect so nicely.
Yeah, absolutely. So the one thing that you do not have is a website, but the best way to contact Susie would be through Facebook, would you say?
Either that or, I have no problem people emailing me. As a matter of fact, I have created a swimsuit fit book.
Oh, fun.
And I'm going to email it to you. And it's fun. Because it has to be fun, because I have this mug that my grandmother gave me, and it says, things could be worse. We could be trying on swimsuits.
Isn't that the truth?
It is the truth. But in answer to your question, I think that either on Facebook, and please don't ask me my Facebook address because I don't remember it.
Well, I think I have the Holly Swimsuit Mystery
That's
Series.
That's
okay,
it.
Yeah. The Holly, I said that pretty quick. The Holly Swimsuit Mystery Series on Facebook.
Yes. The other way would be mysteries _ at authorsusieblack.com.
Okay, and we will put all of that in your interview. I know that we've already had the interview, but we'll add that to your interview. Wonderful. So that you have all those links and things. So
I wish I did have a website, but I am too intimidated to create one.
Well, that's a whole other conversation, because I felt that way at the beginning too. So yeah, absolutely. So, but there's hints. So, and this person's really great at that.
Oh, good.
What's that?
You can adopt me.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Oh,
this has been wonderful.
Thank you too. And you have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Okay.
Andrea, thank you very much for taking such good care of her.
Nice to meet you.
It was a pleasure meeting both of you. Thank you very much for this opportunity to introduce myself and my book.
Absolutely.
To all your followers.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you. Okay. Well, have a good rest of your day.
You too. Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.